Welcome back to Hearthstone Global Games. We have more matches coming up for you right now. Moving to the second match of the day. And I've got bored of Sottle, actually. I've sent him away and replaced him with another British friend of mine who's Lorinda. How's it going, Laurie? We've not cast together in quite a while now.
Been a long time. I've been busy dodging meteors out there and stuff that my friends have been hurling at me. But yeah, it's going well now. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, seems reasonable. How have you been enjoying Global Games so far? Because I know obviously you were casting last week with Falcone and Gaskin as well. But this is very much your style of thing because you've covered a lot of regions throughout the world of Hearthstone as well. So
yeah, I mean, last week and this week in particular, we've had the APAC versus Europe theme going on, and so that's something that really goes into what I like, is like researching the players, making sure that every player gets their voice heard. So some of these players don't get many chances to get the exposure, and this is giving those guys a chance to take on the best players in the world. And I want to make sure that as many as possible get their name out there and, who am I? What am I about? And I love doing that.
This is definitely the place to do it, as, we can see some teams like Turkey, for example, are rocking the top of the group and looking great. But we do have the next match coming up very, very soon. It is going to be Belgium versus Malaysia, and Belgium are actually 0-1. in the group so far. Malaysia 1-0. So looking at the way these teams stack up, Malaysia, Chunga, great player. I had the pleasure of meeting him at the Malaysia Major. He's had some very, very strong performances at the Southeast Asia Majors in general. I think it was fourth, third, second.
That's
or
right.
Something.
This is going to be the one, mate.
Yeah.
How casting numbers were like 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, exactly. And then go on for a first place. So he's been a great performance. We see players like Gilgamesh and Lala Song as well. Very popular over in that region. But what do you make of Belgium, Larry?
So Belgium have been putting a lot of time into this. I'm sure most of the other nations have as well. But for instance, Chinoise and Arne last night were streaming during DreamHack to 10 people to test their decks for today and various things. As we look at these more amazing pictures.
I don't know what that is.
That's a thing.
Ah, Laurie's fabled things. But yeah, Belgium looks very, very nice. I actually swung by Belgium on my way here. I went to Brussels Airport.
Wow. And Malaysia, you swung by last time for the major.
Yeah, I was in Malaysia. It was a pretty cool place. Actually, I had a lot of fun there. The player base is kind of nuts in Malaysia. Those guys do not mess around. They absolutely love it. Very, very dedicated to the game. And as is, I feel like kind of similar and thematic for all of the Asia-Pacific regions, or countries, should I say, is that they really want to prove themselves. Every single time I've spoke to anyone from any of those countries, they're just like, oh, you're really good. Just wait till this tournament. Just wait till this tournament. And, we've seen some great players come out of that region. And this is the perfect opportunity to do it. So we can check out how the matchup actually looks. Just to remind you, this is a team best of 5. Each player will play versus the player opposite them in a best of 1. Each victory will go to getting towards 3 points for the team. The first team, to 3 wins the whole series. They can pick one of their 2 options of deck. So it's going to be Oliek, versus Lala Song, Paladin and Warlock versus Warrior or Rogue. I feel like the Paladin pick's going to happen here from Oliek.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're getting their Warlock thing out of the way early, which means that later on, it'll be harder for Malaysia to respond to the picks. Because when the Warlock's there in the middle, they go, oh, we're going to have to play against the Warlock pick later. Well, we know full well that they're not going to play Warlock 9 times.
I was going to say, we say this,
not
and
always.
then they'll lock.
And then Stan
turns
up and plays Blood Bloom. But in general, you can work out. Look, if we have to play against the Warlock, we don't mind. And so, gets the Warlock out of the way early means you're very unpredictable for the rest of your lineup.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting one as well because I think Paladin is one of the safer ones. There you go. There's the Paladin. So it's going to be Paladin versus Rogue, but Paladin one's one of the safer pairings to do because at the moment, like, it's got the mix of being there's only really one style overall of Paladin in terms of just what it does in general with the Murlocs, but that seems quite restricting, so your opponent will know what you're against. But within that style, there's a million different cards you can play.
Yeah, you can play as many or as few Murlocs as you want within reason.
And each style is actually very strong, so it means that, your opponent probably knows what you're going to play, but the deck's just good, so it's fine. Whereas, you can then use Warrior, for example, later on that has much of a, well, is it Pirate, is it Quest, to really confuse your opponent, whereas Paladin's just like, yeah, deck's good, we're going to get him. See the players getting ready.
Malaysia pairing up the Warrior with the Rogue and not picking the Warrior, that's, I think you and Sottle touched on this, this is a good class they're not going to be able to play in this match now.
It seems really strange, actually, is that, the more I see it, maybe just this is like a level 1 strategy of you just want the strongest classes paired with not another strong class. We saw the same from B7 as well. I think he had Mage and Paladin, which again, they're two classes I would want my team to play,
right.
if I'm completely honest. But something as well to consider is that you know the teams will actually prepare for the most powerful classes. So if they're like, okay, one person can potentially counter this or this, one person can counter that or that. If you suddenly put those classes together and say, well, you've just wasted some of your potential counter queuing, possibilities, means that it's going to open up potentially more options here.
Yeah, as we go through some facts there about the players, you guys can see that Gundam Flame. I think he impressed myself and Sottle when we cast that.
Gundam Flame's also not these are the information about the wrong player.
Why am I reading Gundam Flame? I'll just go straight into that there. Yeah.
Laurie, this was
ago.
the test and you failed.
I'm off.
You failed, so debated, gone. We will get that sorted.
But, you know, Gundam Flame did impress. That was earlier today and they lost, so obviously...
Gundam Flame lost with his priest, that's fine. But we will check out the players. We did see them getting ready, so they're almost ready to go into the game. And with all these Paladin decks knocking around, what is the sort of style that you think is the strongest? Because there are so many. We recently saw Shoop take DreamHack with and the Zoth Paladin, which I don't think anyone was expecting.
I think the mid-range one is my personal favourite, where you can just react to anything. I think a lot of mid-range decks like Hunter sometimes fall in between, and they don't end up being able to do anything against anything. Yeah. Hunter's actually quite good right now, but that's beside the point. But I think the mid-range Paladin at the moment can react to absolutely anything. It's so strong either side. It can go aggro well enough. It can defend well enough. And so, yeah, I pretty much like that version. But there are so many choices within your lineup that obviously... depending how you're
even
choosing
just
your line,
like
you can just pick
two cards different changes up enough. And the Rogue as well, as always, could be the Quest Rogue variant, or could be Miracle. We are going to see right now, it is in fact the Quest Rogue from Lala Song. So his battle plan is going to be pretty straightforward, as you'll want to get this quest active as quickly as possible. Having the Youthful Brewmaster available straight away is nice to have one bounce, but we probably would have preferred a Shadow Step, whereas Oliek has a Stonehill Defender and a Primordial Drake, so doesn't like to be the highly aggressive Paladin Murloc list, but definitely has the Murloc potential with no doubt cards like the General Megasaur.
And he will want to be keeping as much aggressive stuff as possible, so let's see if what I said is right. Oh, he has actually got the Tidecaller in there as well.
This is what we're saying.
Yeah, it's okay.
You literally go like, okay, here's the rough shell of Paladin, i.e. just the averagely good cards. I'm just going to put some cards in there, I'm just going to fill the rest out. And something we don't see often is Tidecaller and Equality as well is like a strange combination. Normally, if you're playing Tidecaller, you're playing a more aggressive opening with the Murlocs, which means you probably don't have time for Equality. Lala Song, haha, I think was said there from him as Hungry Crab versus Paladin. Feels good, man.
It does, and we've seen the damage that Crab can do against the Murlocs with the repeated bounce, just eating them as it goes. Talking of facts about players and failing tests, Lala Song represented his country in a math Olympiad.
Oh my god.
So that's his casting career totally ruined.
Well, I can't think of anything worse. I think you have to be bad at maths to be a caster.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just done.
Yeah. He won't ever be a caster. It'd be a great one if you tried, but we'll see. Maybe in the future. Oliek actually got a strong opening now with Valfrin Inquisitor. He can go Tidecaller Inquisitor on one with the coin, then can follow up with Rockpool Hunter and try and just snowball this game before it even gets going.
Yeah, just going to try. I'm just looking at this Hungry Crab and staring. I think, wow, this is just going to eat its way through so much. But there is only one bounce, so getting the quest online, it's weird. You look at it and you think, getting the quest online is going to be difficult, but suddenly there'll be a Mimic Pod or Elementals or something, and the quest just gets itself done. So all you have to do is survive to about turn 6, I think, is about the average, bit lower.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting as well is that Team Malaysia and Lala Song don't actually probably want to play the Hungry Crab next turn. Normally it's just the hero power on 2, because then you can do the 2-mana bounce with a 1-drop, which is probably going to be the Crab. So Lala Song probably going to be pretty happy. There you go. You can see him talking to his teammates, versus over voice comms, and he's just going to be like, okay, we have targets, team. Where do we throw this Hungry Crab? Oh, okay. Look at the response.
Yeah, and he's very happy. The only question now really is, do we want to use our dagger and hit the Tidecaller now, or do we want, and so we can kill that with our dagger next turn, or do we want to just crab on everything and just kill them all?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. So I wouldn't even mind dagger up this turn, because next turn you can crab Shadow Step Crab Brewmaster, right?
Right.
So next turn you have the double bounce that you can play because the crab becomes 0 mana when you Shadow Step it. And also, you know, if you just like Hungry Crab it now and Shadow Step, you can do the same next turn, but then you don't have a dagger equipped as well to deal with the potential hero power next turn as well. I think you can take one turn.
Yeah, so let's see if they go with that. Like you say, the other option is just to do stuff now, but they're going to go with that. Okay. They just take no damage at all. This is what seems like the less risky version. Oh, okay, they're going to leave it up.
Okay. Are Belgium going to play quality? This is risky from Lala Song here. I would have, although, you know...
So it's not risky, right? What is the normal punish here? This is the question. What would normally punish them here? Nothing.
Equality.
But equality is not normal
exactly.
in air quotes in this situation, but it's going to punish them. I think you just do it.
The thing is, though, equality isn't... It's not like equality is never played in Paladin.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not like a completely random card you never see. So, you know, I think for want of bouncing the crab is always going to be good, especially because it either stops your opponent hero powering, or you can just play it on the hero-powered Murloc now because of the Vial thing. So I do like the bounces, or just the dagger up and wait. But, you know, I mean, Lala Song's loving life at the moment.
So the upside of leaving it on the board is that he could trade into the 1/3 next turn, and then bounce it, and then eat another minion and get extra stuff out of it. So he's not just left it there saying, hey, yeah, just kill my crab, because usually you can't. He's put it there so that he can get an extra kill out of it. But he's going to be punished by...
Oh, we won't repeat what he just... I
believe that was Malaysian. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Why are they playing equality? I'm so surprised.
Yeah, so the equality there definitely threw Lala Song off, and he has to readjust his overall game plan here. And a little bit frustrating that the draw was the deckhand. A lot of the time you kind of want to save the pirate play for the turn you already have the quest up, because you then get the patches off that, so then suddenly it's 10 damage out of nowhere, not 5. So it's a bit of a rough one here. We might just see hero power this turn.
But even though they've lost the auto win, if you like, with the crabs, they still are in a very good position. They've got to turn 3. They've taken no damage as the deck that's basically defending as the rogue, and they have got through the early threat. So even though the crab didn't quite do what they were hoping, which was just win on its own, they're still going to be able to go around normal rogue things with their normal minions and bounce.
Yeah, it's definitely important to say, like, you know, quest rogue normally goes relatively slowly for the first 4 to 5 turns, and then explodes onto the board and kills their opponent. So yeah, you know, buying any time is always good as rogue, and we'll see what happens now. Is, you know, Lala Song is just getting him and saying, well, you know, you've got nothing that can deal with both of these minions. I don't think there's actually anything that can deal with both.
But then they thought that last turn. But this time it's even harder to think of something. Before Mad Bomber.
Yeah. Either Mad Bomber or just like somehow he stole the coin and's got Galacta Crawler twice. That would be kind of crazy.
That would be really... Is that the sort of thing that happens in Wild?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically,
I'm so scared.
Rock Pearl Hunter, the only real option here, definitely feels bad as it just dies to board anyway.
Yeah, it almost makes you want to just use the hero power.
Kind of does the same thing, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Brewmasters. Oh, wow.
So that's the quest if they want it.
And I would want it.
It seems to be a fairly good quest. Especially as they can Brewmaster. They can't replay this turn, of course, so they can't do the quest until next turn. But it's there. They've got the 4 iterations.
Yeah, well, I actually think now for Lala Song and Team Malaysia, there's although they want to get it done quickly, of course, there's no super rush. They've seen an equality already, which is you know, one of the cards that can slow them down significantly, you know, mid game. But now they can just, as long as they get the quest off, with Belgium being on so limited amount of cards, only 3 in hand at the moment, as long as their draws aren't absolutely horrendous for the rest of the game, they probably just win through the speed.
And it's hard to know what a horrendous draw is. Like, sometimes the preparation is a horrendous draw because you need it. It speeds up the deck. It's a great card. But sometimes that's a whiff, especially in this situation where you're a little bit low on minions. But basically the whole deck is card draw and minions from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where, you know, a card like if Igneous Elemental is played, then that's a bit dead because, well, 1, it's not got charged, 2, it can just be kind of messed with and avoided a little bit. But yeah, a lot of the time at this point, because of what's already been played, Lala Song's probably in a reasonably comfortable position here. You get the redagger?
He did.
Okay. Always a worry, but these guys know what they're doing most of the time, I'd say.
Yeah, we've seen 1 or 2 of the countries when they haven't had the 4 players in the same room, because obviously they are all communicating. We've seen 1 or 2 of them have a few time issues where somebody at the last second must shout, "Stop! Don't do that!" and the player on the mouse just freezes and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been few and far between, and all these teams have had a game now to iron out those as well.
Yep. Song not feeling comfortable about looks things. It's, 1 minute he was giggling away like a an evil genius because of the hungry crab opening he had, but now he's head in hand. Suddenly now he's just looking a little bit more nervous as the game continues. I feel like what must have felt like almost, as you mentioned, like an automatic win early on, suddenly slipping away. That can shake you a little bit because you're like, such a great spot. Oh.
Right, and the weird thing is they're still in a great spot. You would take this as the rogue deck. You're still in the position. From Belgium's side, though, obviously they are aware what's happening. They know that the deckhand is probably going to complete the quest next turn, and their job really is to make sure there are not many minions for the rogue to turn into 5/5s, and then see what they can do from there. Their first job is to apply a lot of pressure. They pretty much failed to do that because of the start, and so now their job is to just make sure there's as few minions as possible to turn into 5/5s, and hope. When you get to that point, it's just hope they can find a way to win the game.
I like more bouncing. Yeah, so Spike Steed is going to be really nice going forward for Oliak in terms of just awkward minion health to trade into as the rogue. But yeah, this quest can actually just be done now. I believe if he wants it, or at least in hand. I don't think he can activate it this turn.
So the deckhand would be the third iteration? Would be the second, but bounce back would be the third. Yeah, so it'd be one mana light, I think. It's going to cost them 3, and then they'd only have... Oh, they've got preparation, so...
Yeah, he would need the... Yeah, he could do it.
See what they choose to do. Like, do you want to complete the quest with nothing on the board, yeah?
You definitely played the deckhand here.
Playing the one with the bigger health, obviously this will face off against the 2/2 or more likely force the weapon to actually do something.
Also just using the Frayman because it's a requirement from the combo,
right?
As opposed to anything else. Because if the Frayman, if the quest goes off this turn, it gets buffed anyway. But he's because he's doing this, then he's not gonna use the Shadow Step. So he's just gotta take his time. I don't mind this at all. This opens up potentially more powerful turn going forward. But speaking of power, there is Mr. Finger, and this could be the card that actually really helps Oliak out and helps Team Belgium potentially battle back here, as this is looking pretty grim for them so far.
Yeah, this is an interesting build. I don't think, like you said, the Paladin deck, you build it how you like, but this is slightly more aggressive than we thought with those equalities and the Drakes in the opening hand. Actually, it's pretty much the aggro deck with 1 or 2 control cards thrown in.
Yeah, I guess the equalities are more like, taunt buster cards than anything else. You just drop equality, go. Because if you equality your board and drop a wall eater, you're like, yep, great. They're not one health anymore on your side, full of Murlocs, of course.
There's 1 or 2 other cards, like sometimes you still, even to this day, see the occasional huge Edwin flying about, hitting you in the face for 12 or something. So 1 or 2 other things can get through. And also probably in the mirror, getting through Spike Ridge Steed, like you say, a taunt buster.
Move quickly.
Do you like Finger here? Especially because the weapon's equipped. There's no real need to Megasaur this turn.
I'm wondering, how do you win the game if you don't Finger? Like, you can defend for a long time, but you will eventually just die to this weight of 5/5.
Also, I think the teams just take their time discussing the potential future turns as well, because Finger, when you can go into Spike Ridge Steed, go into True Silver to trade if he really needs to, it just opens up so many options. Then Megasaur the following turn could actually flip this game a little bit with, the next 1 minute a Wind Fury comes out or a plus attack on a lot of Murlocs, and the game actually ends the other way here. They're going to see the Brewmaster come down now onto the deckhand, though, prop the quest, and now with preparation, the quest will be live. Even a Shadow Step available as well.
Yeah, going to be able to start just killing some of these things. Now, obviously, you can't kill the Finger, but you can kill the rest. And Belgium's health total is down to 17 as well.
Down to 12 after this turn.
Going to be down to 12, which is just going to, and if you hit it with your face, down to 11, which is crucial, because that means that 11 you can do in 1 turn, but obviously they're going to pick up the minion here because they're scared that it might help Finger do its thing. They're thinking, how do we lose here? So they hit face, they maybe get one fewer on the clock, but they have the Shadow Step to bounce back the deckhand anyway, so it can attack twice next turn. And so the thing they're scared of is that Murloc getting buffed, bumping into a minion, and then Finger doing Finger things.
Yeah. So...
And that's going to be shown here because if the Spike Ridge Steed, if the 2/1 was on the board, the Finger would be able to get the kill that it now can't get.
Yeah, can still get some work done with the True Silver Champion instead, or if you want to risk the Megasaur into poison, but that doesn't seem very good.
Yeah, it's this
Definitely not a good
horrible
spot.
position you get into where everything just is counting against you now. Where as soon as that quest comes down and everything's a 5/5 for 1, that's pretty efficient minion. You'd play that card.
I would probably play cards that are 1 mana 5/5s.
Yeah.
Especially when some have charge.
Yeah, just to help a little bit. So the best play here for Belgium. They've got to not die, but they've also got to try and get in a position where not dying actually achieves something rather than dying a turn later.
Yeah, I think they actually just
Move quickly.
True Silver Champion plus Fenrir into the deckhand feels okay. Looks like he's gonna go for the Megasaur. So it has to be poison, and he gets it.
He could have got +3 as well, in fairness.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep, +3 would have done the same. So,
So
there's
two
two
chances at it, which is a lot better, obviously. But not getting anything there from the Finja as such, but there's no lethal.
Oh,
there was
there
no
you go.
lethal.
It had to be a charge minion this turn to get the lethal out, unless it was like an eviscerate as well. But that is going to be enough. And, you know, a huge opening there for Lala Song. He had the crab against the Murloc piled in. Absolutely fantastic there for him. And for Team Malaysia as they go 1-0 up versus Belgium with the help of a pig and a crab. It's pretty much, this deck should be called Zoo. Maybe Farm Rogue.
Farmer Rogue.
Yeah, why
Nice
not?
simple deck.
Exactly.
People who like simple animals.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with a pig. I like Huff as one of my favourite cards, Lorinda. And he's a
Really?
pig.
I'd never have guessed.
Exactly. He's a pig. There's nothing wrong with those little pigs. But yeah, Malaysia is going to go 1-0 up. And, you know, we mentioned earlier in terms of how the teams are positioned in the group, is Malaysia's already 1-0 up in groups and Belgium is 0-1 down. So if Malaysia gets this win, Belgium goes 0-2, Malaysia go 2-0. So really starts to spread the group apart.
And you can qualify on 2 wins in some situations. Obviously, tiebreakers and things will factor in. So getting that second win, you know, you're not through. You probably need 3, but 2 does put you in that slightly ease of comfort position each week of, well, if we do lose, we'd rather not, but the pressure's just off that little tiny bit.
Yeah, and the next game we're going to be seeing is going to be Warrior versus Hunter, and depending on how, a lot of this depends on how the Hunter's built, and obviously which Warrior deck it is. If it is the Quest Warrior, then this Hunter has to be, I feel, quite magnificent to be able to get a win, because I think that this matchup is very, very difficult. As long as the Warrior kind of knows what they're doing, they don't even need the quest, so they can mulligan it to higher chances for War Axes, you know, any other armor gains or removal. Because, to be honest, a lot of times, since if Hunter gets the board swept once, then like the game just ends for them. They just can't get enough onto the board.
It depends on the build. I know that Zeros has been building several Hunter builds. One had Call of the Wild in for a while, but now, is it Volcanosaur?
Volcanosaur, yeah.
Volcanosaur, like, that can actually provide a little bit of mid to late game push. Because the Hunter can get the Warrior quite low. It can get the Warrior down to 7, 8, which is fairly low. And a Volcanosaur coming in with Wind Fury or maybe a Call of the Wild plus a small board can just get you through. So it'd be interesting to see if they've actually teched it anti-Warrior for this situation.
Yeah, the problem with any sort of like building Hunter, like Hunter, I feel can almost beat anything if you know you're going to play against it, right? You know, and you could say that of any deck, but I just feel Hunter, because they have options to like tech quite heavily towards certain styles,
Right.
Means that, you know, if this is the Hunter list that is the Warrior beater, then sure. But then, well, one, what if it's Pirate Warrior? 2, what if you don't even queue against a Warrior player?
That's
you know
the
what I mean?
mind
Like,
games of HCG. They're playing Hunter against Warrior for a reason, and
but
that
if you
reason
play-
isn't the Pirates, is
But
it?
if you play Hunter with Call of the Wild in and you run into just an aggro deck, you probably just lose.
But they have Mage in their lineup. They could have been playing the Mage to counter
I
that
guess,
stuff, and
I
then
guess.
play the Hunter, tech it against the Control, and if it pans out the way it is, and you think they're going to play the Quest, which we don't know, then go with the Hunter. I'm going to call that they've actually teched this out.
Okay, we'll see how it pans out. It's
Black
gonna
Knight
be the,
is another card we've seen in Hunter recently.
It is. Black Knight's been popping up a little bit because of the popularity of the Quest Warrior and also just the power of some Taunt cards as well. We see Tar Creeper slipping into a lot of decks, and even though, you know, Black Knight 6 mana versus a 3 mana, just the tempo of just killing it off without having to worry about it and drop a minion on the board is actually reasonably powerful. But even we see, you know, Jade Druid running the Drakes, for example, is actually like a big dude to get a Black Knight on. Looks like the players are ready, and it's going to be, as we said, the Hunter for Malaysia. It's going to be Revenge CS and it is going to be the Quest Warrior for Belgium. Fire Plume's Heart, obviously in the opening hand as all quests do begin, but is he going to stay there once he's done with the mulligan?
As you see there, the players are talking for Belgium. They're all on the same comms, and it looks like at least 2 of the Malaysians are in the same room for this. As I say, Chinoise was actually in the same room as Arne last night, so maybe they're together as well. Chinoise, of course, winning DreamHack Tour last year, going 15-0 in that event.
It's a pretty reasonable run.
15-0?
Okay.
I've done the other one 15 games in a season before. Anyway.
15 games since you started playing Hearthstone.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we are going to see the Quest mulligan away. No true surprise there, and this is a hell of an opening for these guys here. Fire Warax, Armorsmith, and Stonehill Defender. Very nice curve here for the Warrior.
And I think we saw there that the Hunter curve was getting... Yeah, the Hunter curve's also a good one. Obviously, though, Fiery Warax is the dream for Warrior here.
Direwolf Alpha. Normally a nod to a more aggressive list in general, or just a token-heavy list, which sounds weird because a lot of Hunter cards are actually like token-based. One because of Adapts now from the Razormaw, the Rat Pack, the Wolf as well. You know, even Highmane is kind of a token card.
And even, like some decks even running Firefly now, just
exactly,
fill out the curve with that Wolf.
Yeah, so we'll see the impact this Direwolf has, if it's going to put on enough pressure. You can already see kind of what will happen, or what could potentially happen, is Revenge goes all out with this curve, and then it gets cleaned up once, and then has to just play off the top.
And then
the
it's
top
about
isn't good enough.
Have you got tech? If they haven't got tech, the top is not good enough, I agree. But again, it seems weird to run this over the mage in this spot, so maybe there is a little bit of tech. Or maybe they just decided...
What was the other... It was Warrior and... What was the other pick for Chinoise?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because
that's one of the problems. Like, against Warrior, I would have actually just picked Mage any day of the week.
Right.
But it depends what the other...
And they chose not to run their own Warrior. Maybe they've concluded that Warrior's not that good or something. Which we wouldn't agree with, but...
Blow my mind. So... Warax is an option, but also Armorsmith is, and Armorsmith actually kind of does more work than Warax to a certain extent here,
right?
Because of the way the board looks. Like Warax in 1 health minions kind of sucks, and also the potential ping damage from the Armorsmith, it could be relevant. He's going to go for the Warax though, kill off the Fiery Bat, and it double Acolyte to chain into the next few turns to get some really, really high value draws here.
Going to go probably with the Direwolf here, I should imagine. If you've always got a choice to wait with your Razormaw, even though it's going to be slightly less attack, it's usually, I feel, the right thing to do to wait so that you can buff up, say, your Rat Pack or something.
I think especially with the Warax already equipped, I think like Direwolf seems reasonable. Razormaw could just get plus attack though, which means that unless you have exactly a Ghoul or Whirlwind, then suddenly you have to Fire Warax a 4 attack minion. Wind Fury, go.
Plants?
Yeah, plants seem good here. Unless you really like Cute Cat and put Taunt to defend the Cute Cat from the Fire Warax.
Excuse me, I just look at the golden, massive, just...
Yeah, it's sick, isn't it?
Ridiculous. Yeah, go for the plants.
Yeah, Living Spores, not too much of a surprise in general. Just makes the board a little bit more sticky, a little bit more awkward to deal with for the control.
And you're agreed on the Cute Cat now? I didn't think you agreed with everybody else in the world on which one's the Cute Cat.
I mean, they're both cute to me, Lorinda, but the one on the right, so maybe a little bit cute.
Okay, good. You agreed. That's all that matters.
So, Acolyte of Pain going to be drawn now. Played, sorry. And this could change everything here, because one of the ways you can actually beat out Warriors sometimes is when they just don't have the draw, right? Like they can actually just don't have a lot of cards to deal with you, whereas double Acolyte when there's only 1 attack minions on the board is absolutely huge, and even this Direwolf isn't going to be enough to trade into this Acolyte favorably.
There are a lot of 1-drops in this deck. I wonder if we'll see the Warden in this deck. They seem to have really filled it full of 1-drops.
Yeah, I know Trump, I believe at DreamHack, was playing like 1 Warden, 1 Rhino, I think, as well. Like just dropped 1 Warden in there. It's like, well, if you draw it, you actually thin out a lot of...
yeah, because you don't want to keep drawing these 1-drops on turn 16. I mean, I don't think we'll go to turn 16. Let's say 11, where you might get to. You want to get these out of the deck and start drawing your 3s, 4s. And if there are high mains, which there might not be. I've got some.
It would blow my mind if there's not high mains.
We don't want to be blowing your mind.
Why do you not want to play?
Not enough of it.
Why do you not want to play? Ah, very nice. Why do you want to play one of the best cards in the game?
Right.
Deck? That's what is too crazy for me, at least. Just gonna be Direwolf and push for some damage. And
fill out the board.
Yeah, there's no point playing Macaw here, I don't think, because no matter where you play the Macaw, it's going to create a better trade for the Acolyte.
Sure.
Oh, it's actually going to drop it there. Interesting.
Yeah. I guess that's you don't want the Acolyte trading into the Firebat and then getting shot and drawing 2 cards in one turn.
Yeah, but
So
this...
if you put it here, then the Acolyte can't trade into it.
No, but you're guaranteed to draw 2 from the Acolyte anyway, right?
But it'd be over a longer period.
You could draw 3.
It could draw
Trade
3.
Whirlwind.
Trade Whirlwind. So,
Well,
are you in
trade.
enough trouble here that you need to drop the Armor Smith? And you're not in trouble at all, but are you wary enough here to drop the Armor Smith? Or can you just think, hey, I'm on 18, I can just spam the board with more Acolytes, or maybe even just a 1/4 Stonehill and get myself some better taunts?
Yeah, I mean, 18 isn't exactly safe. There is the worry. If you only drop another Acolyte and don't do anything else, then suddenly you're taking quite a lot of damage. The draw happening first seems completely reasonable to me. Tar Creeper, pretty good card in itself.
Now the question is, how do you manage this hand? Because with all the 3s and 2s, next turn you want to play a 3-drop minion plus a 2, because that adds up to 5, even I can do that. But this turn is quite awkward if you want to play 2 2s. It doesn't quite add up how you want it to.
I'm actually surprised he went for Tar Creeper there. Because, like, the Stonehill, although could die to the ping from the bat, actually just dies in the same way a lot of the time. And Tar Creeper dies on board because of this Direwolf as well. So I wouldn't have mind Tar Creeper next turn. Stonehill Defender, if it clears up the minions on the board, then Acolyte can help clear the following turn. And then you can actually just Tar Creeper Armor Smith the following turn.
Yeah, you'd have put the Armor Smith behind a bigger taunt your way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So they're
that's going to trade more
obviously,
favorably
they want
as
to
well.
just look after stuff here. This Hyena, there is an execute in hand now, just in time for Belgium. Otherwise, this Hyena was going to start running riot.
Well, yeah, but they need something to prot the execute first.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is this Acolyte, I imagine, is going to get cleaned up. If you're going to make a Hyena like this, you are going to turn 5, so Brawl is a consideration. So maybe, you know, Malaysia's kind of regretting the plant pick at this point. But in general, you don't want to create this and then give an out to the execute, basically. So the Acolyte getting cleaned up, not too crazy. War Axe is an option.
Kind of. You eat a lot of damage if you War Axe execute this, and you leave yourself wide open to eating. In fact, you're dead. You're one-off dead. So that doesn't seem to be particularly viable.
So I would imagine that it's going to look really random, but like sleep with the fishes in Stonehill?
Yeah, and Stonehill and try and get a 2-drop taunt. Dirty Rat, and hope they can have more minions.
Yeah.
It's not looking good at all. Maybe just play the Armor Smith behind the Stonehill.
Yeah, I think the problem there is
Then
though
you
that
just die.
the 2-1s. I don't think you just die.
Well,
but
you
the
died to
2-1s
so many things, so I didn't.
Yeah, the 2-1s trade into the Stonehill because of the Direwolf. The Direwolf has to die this turn, whether you use the War Axe, execute, or sleep with the fishes. I think sleep with the fishes is probably better because the execute will deal with the hyena. Sorry, in the following turn.
Yeah, and your way around, they could be playing a 1-5, not a 1-4 this time around. Basically, it'd be a 3-5.
3-5, yeah, for the turn.
It makes very little difference in terms of damage. It does.
That picks the 2.
Wow, they get what they're looking for.
Frostwolf Grunt to the rescue.
Like it does. How much damage is this, though, when you start? The plants aren't beasts, that's worth noting, so they won't buff the Hyena.
Well, it's still going to be a relatively clean kill. There is still the option for Eaglehorn Bow this turn. Can push 9, it can push 11. Put your opponent on 4 and ask them the same question next turn. Like, you know, can you kill the Hyena this turn? Because you couldn't last turn, so let's see what that's all about. I do like the bow here. It banks 5 damage, 10 damage over the course of 2 turns as well.
Yeah, and it also plays around. Like, if you play the Rat Pack, Brawl is quite good. I know you get the 2 rats, but it's still reasonable. 3 rats it would be. But this way around, it's like, what are you brawling? 1 minion? Really? Yeah. You might have to, but hey, you don't want to. And this just stops the Hyena from getting executed. And they've decided, let's just get rid of the dog so that there's just no brawl option at all. Smash our opponents down to 2 and tell them, deal with this.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very strong performance indeed. And this is just come off the back of this Hyena, and to be completely honest, Hyena, although a card that can be easily dealt with, if there's a Whirlwind, if there's a Ghoul, it's dead, right? You know, like, because they execute, it's just dead. And then this situation doesn't really come up. But also, just as many times as that happens, sometimes, like, Hyena can't be answered, and then you win.
And you have to know your matchup.
Yeah.
If you play this matchup, you have to say, yes, if everything goes perfectly for the Warrior, we will lose. And so you have to assume it won't go perfect for the Warrior, not play around everything, pick the things you want to, hope they haven't got, and go with your feel, and that's exactly what they've done. 2-0.
Yeah, another win on the board there for Malaysia. Only one game away from actually taking the series 3-0. So all the pressure is going to be on the players that are coming up next. But yeah, I was saying like the Warrior versus Hunter game is very, very difficult for the Hunter a lot of the time. But having such a strong opening with the 1-drops, and then although the Acolyte draws were fine and having the Acolytes available, just not having a way to kill a Hyena, well, guess what? You lose in any class,
and
right?
Malaysia played to that. They realised that, again, like I've just said, if everything's going to go perfect for the Warrior, so be it, but we're going to go with a Hyena, and they haven't got it, and they didn't have it. Oh, new class.
Wow, Chunga is playing the Warlock. Very, very interesting indeed. So skipping on the Paladin, the power of the Paladin at the moment, playing the Warlock, whereas Ane is actually going on the Priest as opposed to the Mage.
Yeah, and just to point out, by the way, in case people are wondering, Arne is playing twice in a row because Maverick has submitted that he can't make it today in advance, which means that one of the regular players is allowed to replace Maverick. So Arne is playing twice in a row. There's nothing weird happening here. Maverick has literally told everyone that we can't make it on this particular date, as is going to happen over the course of a multi-week event occasionally, unfortunately.
Yeah, but as long as the players give enough heads up, we can deal with it and just let one of the other players play it again. They are playing as a team in general anyway, so it's just Arne is piloting the mouse, basically, and the deck overall. But yeah, we're going to see Priest versus Warlock. Not a matchup I thought we would even see. I'm kind of surprised Warlock has actually even played at this point. I imagine it's going to be Zoo. Would anything else really stand out to you?
I've been told I'm not allowed to say the Q word with Sottle in the same room as me.
The Q word?
It's not going to be Quest Warlock.
Oh.
I'm not allowed to say that it's not going to be Quest Warlock.
Lorinda tries to tell us that Quest Warlock's good.
Shh.
If you disagree, tweet him. Let him know.
Cool.
Incoming a huge flurry of tweets. But yeah, it's going to be Malaysia rocking the Warlock as potentially the winning deck that wins them this series 3-0 and propels them to a 2-0 lead in the group as well. So that's interesting to see.
I wonder if this is Sivka's deck, because Priest is pretty good against Zoo. It'd be a weird thing to queue up thinking, hey, they might play Priest, let's Zoo this.
I just struggled just not to just play Paladin. I wouldn't care if someone has Hungry Crab. Like, I'll just play Paladin, wreck them. It should be fine.
I like to see some Doom. I think we're going to see some Doom in this game.
Going to be an interesting one. I think...
Not that I'm that pessimistic that everything's Doom, by the way, but...
He is. We are going to get... Looks like we get into the game now, and it is Handlock. By looks thing. You know,
either or, yeah.
The Blood Doom. But yeah, on Arne's side there for the Priest, it looks like at the moment it could be anything.
It really could. Like, Dragonfire Potion doesn't necessarily mean there are dragons anymore.
Yeah, all the Priest decks actually just run these cards. So it's fine.
And Priest is in that position right now where... There we go, that helps. That's a dragon deck. But for the large part, most of the cards are building up the same, maybe 20 cards, 22, and then the rest define which way you want to go with the deck. And
yeah, I think the only big standouts for at least Priest is the match me and Sol just cast with the Silence Priest, whereas you need very specific card sets in there to be able to make that work. But in general, yeah, you know, a lot of cards pretty much share deck archetypes. One that doesn't is Zoo and, Handlock. So we'll see how that one's going to go. Lord Jaraxxus, Faceless Manipulator, Mountain Giant in hand. Mountain Giant going to be a key. We can see the Shambler as well. This just more and more looks like just straight up Handlock going on. Yeah. And it's the age-old, like, it used to be so funny in this matchup, like, you know, a couple of years ago when Handlock was very popular, was you keep Mountain Giant because it's just good on 4, but you play it and then you just go, death? You know, have you got it? If you've not got it, I probably win. If you do have it, we continue the game.
Now we need our Twilight Drake. By the way, that's the Warlock I'm talking about, not the Priest. Yeah. That makes things awkward.
Yeah, the Twilight Drake definitely the preferred option against Priest for reasons that I'm sure everyone is fully aware of.
Yeah, Arne's got to work out how he wants to do his curve as well here. Chonga taking his time there, by the way, because his opponents don't know what this deck is yet. So if there are options available on turn 1, maybe they can still represent Zoo. Although we decided it'd be a strange choice.
Yeah, also as well, though, bear in mind that the teams are in communication with each other, so it means that they're probably saying, okay, this is the hand, this is what we do next turn, this is what we do the turn after, and can start just planning ahead a little bit as opposed to just playing one turn at a time. Belgium now, just going to be taking their own time here. Feels like we're going to be in for a long one here, Lorinda.
Yeah, Priest gets a lot of options with the Radiant Elemental now. At some point, just playing that and then playing the free Power Word Shield is such a huge bonus in its own right before all the other obvious things that reducing spells by 1 does for you. And then you've got to decide, do I want to shield the Elemental, do I want to shield the North Shy? And that might take a lot of time next turn, so they're starting to plan it out in advance now.
I do like this though, not really that much deals with the Cleric. Doomsayer on curve, kind of, but there is a Shadow Word Pain in hand anyway. So there's no true punish here for this getting this Cleric down, except, Belgium can actually just save some mana and then speed the game up a little bit. Radiant Elemental into Powered Shield, definitely an option, seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think getting some cards in your hand when you're playing its handlock is probably pretty important. You know that giant might be coming, they've kept a card in their hand, and just in general, you don't want to be outvalued by that hero power, so getting everything down and chipping away at the damage to maybe later on regulate how many taps that Chonga can make, because these days the healing in a handlock is just grim, right?
Oh, and there it is, the key card that is going to make or break at least the opening stages of this game. So what would have happened if there was no Shadow Word Death and no way to kill the Giant is Mountain Giant into Shambler, and then, the Priest has umpteen problems and probably just loses off the back of the sheer power of having 2, 8 attack minions on the board.
Right.
Shadow Word Death just stops that in its tracks, and suddenly Shambler looks very, very weak indeed.
And then you get this weird thing later on where the Operative can draw so many cards effectively that the Priest can almost keep up with a handlock these days with all that card value, especially if Operative finds Operative when
and also,
everyone's favourite thing.
On average, if you include in the Operatives, then they're just like playing bigger dudes or more awkward dudes to kill on average. So now here comes the Mountain Giant on 4 to battle for the board. It's going to be a very short battle.
It's not a battle he's going to win.
Yeah, Shadow Word Death going to clear it up very easily. Shadow Visions now for 1 mana. We see the power of this Radiant Elemental on the board, just making everything that bit cheaper.
Yeah, and making 1 card 1 mana cheaper is not that exciting. Making 2 or 3 cards in the same turn 1 mana cheaper, that is where all the value really comes to play.
And also as well, the difference between 1 mana actually changes as the mana goes down.
Yes.
So the difference between 1 mana and 0 mana is absolutely incredible.
Priest cards tend to be pretty cheap.
Exactly. Well, here we see, 0 mana powered, it means you can just play it this turn. Whereas if that was 1 mana or 2 mana, the turn gets a little bit more dicey, but this is absolutely insane. Can choose to buff up his Twilight Drake or go on the Elemental. If he goes on the Elemental, then he's got a board full of 5 health minions, unless there's a Hellfire.
Or the North Shy, and then they've got infinite card draw. So they've got 3 difficult choices here.
I'm just thinking of cards like Blast Crystal, Siphon Soul. If you go all in on 1 minion, you're opening yourself up. Whereas if you spread the health around, the board is just very, very awkward to deal with.
This North Shy is going to live by virtue of the fact that Drake has to die.
Yeah.
Whereas if you buff the North Shy, like you've just said, eggs, baskets, phrases, things.
Yeah, I wonder if Faceless on the Twilight Drake is a play here. Well, it's a play he can technically make, but this would then ask him, ask Ane to trade his whole board in, and although all the minions wouldn't die, the Elemental would die, the Cleric would be on 1, the Twilight Drake would be on 3, so suddenly that board becomes way, way more manageable going forward.
And they've got to expect, and it is there, so I'm not just saying this because I can see it though, you've got to expect that next turn you want to siphon the Operative. That's kind of how curves work, especially when the Priest has drawn something. Yeah, he goes with your play, just get something on this board.
It's just recognition of you have to do something that doesn't get completely blown out on the following turn. If, tap into Doomsayer, great. Whatever. It's basically just saying buy another turn. At least the Trailblazer is an option for Ane here from the Operative. So, 5 mana, play a 5/6 dragon, discover Elise. Seems good to me.
It really does. They might want to think, how much of a long game are we playing here with this current board, though? For instance, Shadow Bolt is a card you would almost never take here, but they've got so much pressure. If they think that Shadow Bolt can just blast through the last minion and kill you in the face, then that might be all right.
Well, I actually like Elise because they've got the pressure. They don't, other than their Bookworm turn 6, they don't have a good turn 6 play. Slam Elise is another 5/5. Deal with it. You put the deck, the card, or the pack into your deck, and gives more value if the game goes late. So I do love the Elise pick here. It's just so much value, and just a 5/5 for 5. Decent card.
Yeah, and look at all this.
Yeah, just get him.
Strength.
Just get him.
Like you say, the 5's going to join him in a minute.
Twilight Drake, and it is a possibility now. Twilight Drake with the Sunfury Protector is now an option. So 2 4/7 taunts will help to stem the tide a little bit, but it really is only a matter of time going forward.
And that's like 14 extra health. No, it's like 7 extra health. The other 7's already there.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of extra health when you can't heal for more than 3s and 2s.
Yeah, and the fact that dragons as well is it's better than playing the Shambler because the dragon's going to be immune to Dragon Fire Potion, which is going to be very, very key indeed. Definitely a tough one though. It's good. It's going to get for now. As you mentioned earlier, the healing power of Old Hand Lock or of Arena Lock just isn't there anymore. So you have to just rely on getting the big minions down and making a bit of an immovable object here.
And that is definitely going to put a spanner in the works for the time being. Belgium need to work out when they want to Elise, probably now. But do they want to get that pack on the go, or do they just want to keep drawing their good stuff that's in their deck? Going to end up drawing a card here by the look of this to see where they stand.
Yeah. I like this. There's even just you can post a Madness to 2/3 to do extra damage to the Twilight Drake.
Primordial's not really that good at the moment.
Maybe this is just a pass turn.
Yeah, there's... They're probably thinking, when do we use the Potion of Madness if we don't use it now? It doesn't do much, but is it ever going
Plays off the
to do
2/3
much?
to be fair.
Yeah. One mana Shadow Word Pain for small things.
Well, it's not too bad.
Helps you hack through this 4/9 you've got to get through.
Just got a little bit wider here. Shadow Flame's a worry, but Shadow Flame's always a worry. And you know, if trade Shadow Flame happens, then that's most of the turn anyway for Chonga. So it just means that Ane can actually just drop down the Elise and keep going basically. So Humongous Razor Leaf. Maybe good to combine with the Shambler this turn. Exact mana, which means that you can get another taunt on the board, but that taunt is not immune to Dragonfire Potion.
Right. Although, Belgium have just shown they can't get through this wall very easily. So I think that will encourage Malaysia to just keep making more and more high health taunts. They are obviously going to look at this Abyssal Enforcer. It can start doing some work, possibly not this turn, as they'd rather not lose their own Drake, but sometime fairly soon. So set up another wall and then play that into Abyssal Enforcer, check all the numbers work out in advance.
Yeah, the worry is the Abyssal Enforcer probably has to be played on the turn of the Ring Farseer plays as well, because you are you are going to 5 health, which doesn't sound sounds reasonably safe versus Priest, but still, there's definitely always a worry that you can just get burst out by something a little bit random, especially if like Lyra might be in the deck. It might not be, because it is Dragon Priest, but Lyra is definitely a card I would consider putting in any deck, to be honest, especially if you're playing Radiant Elementals.
They're hovering over this Farseer. They're actually going to heal up the Drake. They think that this is more important because it's effectively healing themselves for 6.
Sure.
Because Priest isn't going to have any burst damage usually unless something weird happens, and so by healing up the taunt instead of their own face, they've actually doubled that heal.
It was a little bit less because it only healed for 2, but
sure.
But yeah, it still
it
generates a big a big minion, so that's fine. Bigger than the Humongous Razor Leaf, and adds a minion that can actually attack to the board as opposed to having the Razor Leaf on the board that can't attack.
But the pressure from Belgium is just going to keep on coming. There's another operative when they want it, and I don't think they're even going to hurry for that. They've got the Silence now, which is going to do 9 damage, basically.
Yeah, it's actually kind of nuts, isn't it?
It doesn't actually kill the minion, but they don't really care about killing minions. They care about getting them out of the way right now.
Well, they can just clear the board here with Shadow Word Pain as well. 4/7 goes into the Twilight Drake. The Shadow Word Pain to 3/3, clear it off and just keep cracking.
Yeah, and now how on earth does Chonga reply to this one? Most of his taunts have gone, and he's going to have to find a way that doesn't kill him to clear this up. Not only has he got to not kill him, as I keep stressing from game to game, he's actually got to find some way to build a board.
This is tough. Siphon Soul does help.
So the thing that catches the eye is Siphon Soul Doomsayer, which dies. So that doesn't work. So you have to double Mortal. It doesn't die, it leaves you on 3, but double Mortal Coil? Do you ever do that?
How does Siphon Soul leave you on 3 with Doomsayer?
Because you heal for 3. You're on 7, you go to 10, you play the Doomsayer, they hit you for 7, you're back to 3.
Yeah, but you clear the board then, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I was
okay,
thinking,
okay.
if you don't heal for 3, you just die because they hit you for 7.
Yeah.
So it probably leaves you on 10 and no Doomsayer, but so
I think you have
Doomsayer is
to.
another effective heal.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to at this point.
Again, the only other option really is to double Mortal Coil, but I don't see how you ever get your Doomsayer to do anything if you do that.
What are you even going to draw, right? Like,
Yeah, you're not doing it for the draw, you're doing it for the stall. It's just not good stall. I like to Siphon Soul Doomsayer and hope they don't have blasters. But he has Bookworm, does Arne here. Bookworm looks like it might be quite good.
It still has the operative in hand, so the Bookworm, and the Drake actually, so Bookworm won't have a problem being live here, so it's going to be 7 damage plus the Bookworm, plus a heal draw as well, which Arne is going to start off the turn with. No surprise here. Let's see what he draws. Potion of Madness. Well, it's probably not a card you really want to Potion of Madness.
Don't really want to steal
Oh, imagine if there was Inner Fire in hand. That would be so sick. Potion of Madness, the Doomsayer, Inner Fire, go, lethal.
Your imagination is a scary place, Raven.
Hey, it's not like Inner Fire's not played.
So glad you don't share it with us very often.
Wow, so this is a Shadow Flame, a card that would have been glorious for Malaysia a little bit earlier on in Fachonga, but not really going to get the job done now.
Kill everything but the Bookworm, but... Oh, I'm trying to work out how you can get a Mortal Coil in there to kill off the 3/6 as well. Don't think that's how numbers work.
Well, you can't clear off everything anyway, right? Oh, you mean?
Yeah, if you had like enough mana, you could do quite a bit.
Oh yeah, well, okay. Yeah, if you had unlimited mana, you could probably do a few things. Yeah, it's gonna
Chat
be.
has unlimited mana. Why
okay.
can't I?
Okay, so Malaysia look like they are gonna drop their first game in this series. Very interesting pick in general. I wonder what the thoughts are behind this. Playing this handlock, basically, because this could have been the game they just 3-0'd with. They could have picked Paladin, right? And they chose not to. They picked the Warlock and did lose. So Arne is going to put a point on the board for Belgium and keep them in the match with a fighting chance to win the series.
Yeah, and we saw there how Priest can just keep up with Warlock in the card draw stakes there. Did get a decent draw. They got Radiant Elemental and the Northshire and the Shield, so they could draw into their death. That was definitely a helpful thing, but still felt like the matchup was kind of one-sided at that point.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough. I think the problem was when you go Mountain Giant against Priest, if they just slam answer it with the Shadow of Death, and you've just blown a turn, and it meant that the Priest would have had a few turns to actually build up the board himself. We are going to be moving on to the next game, and it is on Arne again, as he has to play, as we explained earlier, instead of Maverick, because Maverick unfortunately is not available. So he's going to be playing the Shaman against Gilgamesh's Druid. And now me and Saul were talking about the Druid and where Druid is positioned at the moment in the meta, saying we expect it, especially maybe even more so from the Asia Pacific regions, to be Jade Druid. Right. But then, we sort of got bait and switch on us earlier, and it was Aggro Druid that actually just demolished, and we were like, well, we also said Aggro Druid's pretty good.
If you get it wrong, if you tech wrongly and it's Aggro Druid, you just die, because Aggro Druid is unstoppable against some decks.
Yeah, so it's going to be the Shaman versus the Druid, and a few interesting interactions. So if the Shaman is, again, I was saying this to Saul earlier, I don't know if you agree, but I feel like I still don't even know where I'm going with Shaman in terms of the deck lists. It could be anything at this point.
You've got the basics of some Jade and some Elementals, and then people really...
Like
they've worked out you can't just jam it full of Elementals for the large point. Yeah, Spirit Echo has been a big revelation, kind of replacing Bran in a weird way.
Yeah, there's even Heavy Control Shaman, there's even, we cast
Wall
Space Shaman as well. But in general, if this is just any form of mid-range deck with AoE, then suddenly, one Lightning Storm can completely blow out an Aggro Druid, and then suddenly, the game's over to a large extent. So we'll see how it turns out. But if it's not Aggro Druid, and in fact it's Jade, and the Shaman deck is relatively mid-range / it's slow, then suddenly the Jade Druid's looking very, very good. Hex on an Aya doesn't really even, although annoying, doesn't really do much when you have cards like the Primordial Drake, which is so good versus Shaman at just narrowing down the board and putting a big dude in the way.
Yeah, and I feel that Druid recently has just come into its own, Jade Druid, because the meta slowed down.
Sorry, I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye what deck this is, and it's making me laugh. It is Uber Control Shaman with Lightning Storm, Halaziel, Faceless for the White Eyes, as well as other shenanigans, I imagine, for this White Eyes. And the idea here is you get unlimited 10/10s, which is kind of ludicrous.
With Taunt?
With Taunt.
Okay, that makes a difference. No, it doesn't. But yeah,
but again,
I'll talk about the Jade Druid later.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Murlocs and very, very aggressive Druid. I think everybody who's played any ladder at all is already sick of this deck.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, you see screenshots of this deck on turn 1, and they have 4 minions, 3 5s or so, and you're like, What?
Yeah,
How?
as the opponent, you're sitting there with your war axe going, I'm fine. No, I'm really
I'm not even
fine
sitting with war axe.
anymore."
I'm not that lucky, Laurie. I sit there with just armor up and hope for the best.
Now sitting there with Hunter Hero Power.
Yeah,
That's
just
what
get
you
him
do.
for 2. So it's going to be going into potentially the last game if Malaysia can take this. It's going to be the Aggro Druid versus the Control Shaman, and we can already see Devolve, great card versus Aggro Druid. They may buff a lot of their minions, but their minions are still 1-drops a lot of the time, so they will go to 1/1s more often than not. And then Doomsayer, fantastic as well to coin into.
Right.
Lightning Storms there. You know, the Jinyu is there as well. All the tools for Belgium are there to beat this Druid list.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird situations where you end up coining Doomsayer on turn 1. You want to leave your Doomsayer as long as you possibly can. And you think, okay, so if I leave it this turn, they're going to make more stuff. They've got Power of the Wilds and Savage Roars. The latest I can leave it is right now.
Yeah.
I have to coin it immediately. And it's not enough. It's not enough if you had Innovate, because Savage Roar would actually have cleared it.
Yeah.
But this is going to really, really slow down Malaysia and allow Belgium just to get that little bit of board presence with a totem, like you say, set up Devolve, set up Lightning Storm, and with the Jinyu as well to get on the board later on. Already Belgium will be looking to pocket this Lightning Storm to save it in case of living mana.
Yeah, and there's another one of the key cards in this deck for the Shaman, the Ancestral Spirit, again, to more often than not be comboed with White Eyes to just create even more, copies of the 10/10 into the deck. And the only benefit here, the sort of, the silver lining for Gilgamesh is that Doomsayer not followed up by anything else on turn 2 means, oh, he only has a healing totem to deal with. Okay, let's start from turn 2 as opposed to turn 1 in this game.
And the Innovate there has allowed this turn to be completely and utterly insane. And like I say, the relevance is this is going to force the Lightning Storm, which isn't even going to clear everything, most likely. And that means...
Oh, you say that, Laurie. Some people roll high on Lightning Storms.
Some people. But on average, it's going to kill 1.5 of those 2/3s.
Sure.
And that means that when the living mana comes, then, well, Devolve might deal with that quite well, but it's still going to be 7/1/1s or whatever, 5/1/1s.
Yeah, I think the key here is the Savage Roar. So,
Right.
Gilgamesh is just going to ignore the totem for now. Not going to get too much... He probably doesn't decide that... Say you're like, okay, well, this totem actually makes the other totems more likely to come out, right?
Right.
Because you're not going to hero power into the same totem twice. But if hero power comes down this turn, it's probably like, great. Sounds good to me. Turn 3 hero power, let's go. Tidal Surge, a really cool card. I love the card. Still not played with it once yet because I've just not played this type of Shaman list.
And also, you're dead on turn 4 in this matchup.
True.
But they really don't want to Lightning Storm here because they'd love to develop their board next turn with the Jinyu. And what Belgium will be doing is working out, look, if we don't do much this turn, just how bad is it? I mean, the answer is it's bad. We can see it's bad. How bad is a Savage Roar? How bad is another big minion? But if they don't do it that way, get the Jinyu down, then the Lightning Storm doesn't kill everything anyway, and it ruins their next turn.
Okay, how good is Devolve this turn? You devolve them down to 1/1s.
Sure.
And then the next turn you make the choice between Lightning Storm or Jinyu. So he's going to go for it. I do like this. This is as risky, I think, as you can go.
Yeah.
The Devolve, you know you're going to get the 1/1s out. And suddenly this Savage Roar damage has been greatly reduced. It's still a lot of damage there, but it's been pretty much reduced by now. It's just going to get it. If there's an AoE, then, the Savage Roar does nothing.
Well, some people will think this is a weird-looking play, but this is the most minions they're ever going to have on the board, unless living mana happens.
For a while.
Then you can't cast it, And so just get that damage in there.
Oof.
The downside is your opponent not only picks up Maelstrom Portal, but knows where they stand. They know, do I need to heal, do I not need to? But the upside is you get that damage in, and this deck is all about getting that damage in while it's there.
Yeah. So the Maelstrom Portal looks great. The only problem is you can't heal and the Maelstrom Portal. But I think the Maelstrom Portal, you're probably not taking 11 damage on an empty board.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah, especially because you can totem as well, so you might get taunt, which then you definitely not take 11 damage.
Yeah.
See what he gets. So 2, 3, not a bad minion.
It's not
at
bad,
all.
but it interferes with the curve because all the other minions will now cost 2 extra, which means they can't heal next turn.
Oh, wow. This is actually nuts. With this buff, if this Fledgling doesn't get cleared up, which it will,
Because Tidal Surge is there.
But if it didn't, you can just win off that card. It's kind of crazy.
And this card is the reason that Druid still plays Innovate to some degree. These decks don't necessarily want to. They want the crazy starts from Innovate, but can be dead later on. But you just go Innovate into Fledgling, and sometimes the game is over.
Yep. Very interesting play there, actually. I suppose it's fine because you go into 6 mana on Jinyu anyway.
Yeah.
But you know, there was a chance that you could actually just trade off the 2/3, just if you don't want the like anti-synergy with your minions in hand.
Right.
And then play Tidal Surge. But
Yeah, I
now
think if the Jinyu wasn't playable next turn, I think they would have traded it off.
this is looking grim for Gilgamesh, though. He's lost the board quite dramatically and only has 2 cards. One's War Leader, one is Firefly into a Flame Elemental, but this just isn't going to be enough. We can see double Lightning Storm and a Jinyu in hand for Belgium.
Right.
So the card that drags you out of this awkward situation, there's mainly one of 2, either a Hydra or a Living Mana.
Right.
Both of those can pretty reasonably be dealt with. If Hydra
Yep.
came down this turn, for example, where you have spell damage Lightning Storms, which are probably enough, along with the 2/3. If Living Mana comes down, you have just regular Lightning Storm to just blow out the game again. So Ane could be going 2-0 at this point with this super control Shaman.
Yeah, Gilgamesh, very experienced player. A lot of people probably haven't heard of him so much in the Western world, but he represented Malaysia at the WESG in China earlier in the year, where he actually represented all of APAC by being one of their 6 representatives. So he's been around some big events. He had an awful group there. It was full of all the best pros in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he struggled a bit, but he learned a lot from that experience. And they're back to 20 health now, go Belgium.
Yeah, this is just looking worse and worse. Living Man is one of the cards we talked about, but when we can see that there's just, in fact, 2 Lightning Storms available, then that's when it gets pretty rough indeed.
And this is the card they've been waiting for. This is, from their side of the table, without Cast Division, this is their out. They've seen it evolve. Hey, maybe we get lucky. Maybe they haven't got any more removal.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, how do you win? You can't just sit around waiting for Finge. You're actually getting hit in the face now. Things are just not going to get better. I think you just play it.
I mean,
I guess the question
we
is,
saw
do you
this.
tap first?
We saw the power of Living Mana from Kalento in week 1, I believe. In the I've lost games that in this situation to Living Mana because I was like, okay, the board's clear, I'm good. Living Mana, I'm like, I used all my AoE to clear the board, and now it's full again. Damn, and then you just lose.
Yeah.
Whereas in this situation, obviously, we can see that the board was cleared in a very efficient way with Devolve into the Maelstrom on time. And now 2 Lightning Storms are just not going to be enough here. Gilgamesh clears up the spell damage totem to avoid a Maelstrom completely ruining him. But we can see that double Lightning Storm, just the 1 Lightning Storm is enough, of course. But having 2 for a backup as well seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and Belgium will just be taking a moment here to work out what they do after the Lightning Storm. Which Lightning Storm shall we use? Do they think the left-hand one's there because we devolved on turn 3 instead of Lightning Storm? So maybe they say, well, if they draw another Living Mana, we can get them to play that as well. It's all much of a muchness, though.
And do we Ancestral Spirit the healing totem for the lulls? I don't know. Oh,
For the lulls. That's what you're all about, right? That's why you're here, for the lulls.
Actually, has a very serious high-level.
That goes without saying, obviously.
But if you want to, low me down to those, then fine. Blue-Gate Warrior combined with the War Leader is not going to be enough to get Gilgamesh out of this situation. Especially with Stonehill Defender potentially discovering another White Eyes, which is because of the class leaning of the Discover option. Anyways, kind of nuts. Double Ancestral Spirit available as well for Belgium. So this is just getting from bad to worse.
Yeah, and Belgium managed not to draw any of their huge stuff. That could have been a problem early on. They did manage to draw a decent curve, but they have played this exceptionally, and Malaysia have had no chance, despite turn 2, everything. And like you say, it was that devolved play just saying, well, we can deal with 4 Wisps. We're going to go a bit low, but we'll be all right.
The fact that Belgium and Ane just played a 5-mana Manatide Totem and we're fine with it shows you how far ahead they are in this game. It's not something you can normally do versus Aggro Druid. You would die if you probably just played Mana Totem full stop. So we really see the power of these Lightning Storms, pretty much giving them definitive wins here.
Yeah, Malaysia looking for some sort of setup here to do a lot of things in one turn, but those things aren't going to happen, I don't think. Unless there's some crazy tech card in there that we are overlooking. I mean, one of the cards obviously is Finger. That could be a thing. You play your Finger, you've got these in your hand, you attack with the next turn, you play your Murlocs, you get some more Murlocs, you lose to a
I think it would have to be Ice Lance Shatterface somehow from the Druid here.
And Ice Lance isn't available, even to Druids at the moment. or anybody.
Oh, they'll be playing wild format, of course.
Of course, wild format is where these crazy comebacks are at.
So Arne, the absolute hero so far for Belgium, winning 2 games straight because he's covering for Maverick, his teammate who can't make it, unfortunately, today. But yeah, he's winning 2-0 and he's evened this series up now at 2-2. So Malaysia was 2-0 ahead, only had to win one more game. They started off with the handlock, failed, and then went into the Druid and also had a rough way of it because that I feel like that Shaman list is the one that's going to beat Druid with the amount of healing.
Yeah, it has so much removal, it has so much healing, it has so much taunt that the Druid was always going to be struggling to get through that. Again, assuming that it was aggro Druid, and it was. And so 2-2 going to go into the ace match, which means that the remaining 2 decks that the players did not use earlier can be chosen from, and we see it's going to be Druid from Belgium this time against the Mage deck from Malaysia.
I would have absolutely loved it if Arne was the ace player as well. And he's like, I'm just going to 3-0 these guys. I've got this. It would have been great. But
Arne takes on Malaysia on his own.
Yeah. Arne is Belgium. But it's going to be revenge on this Mage. Looking forward to seeing the Mage play. Me and Rexar have been seeing other classes the past couple of weeks. So I've been playing a lot of Mage myself.
Wow.
So.
Has he caught you yet?
Yeah, we've discussed it.
It's fine.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing the Mage list. And again, the big question I feel this week is going to be, what is that Druid? And we're going to be asking it probably throughout today.
That sounds like a really bad game show. What's that Druid?
This is Jade or aggro. But I feel like Jade is just better overall, but there is the mind game picks going on, as we saw, in the last series against Italy. They actually, purposely picked the put forward the aggro Druid, and we heard from Italy that they genuinely thought it would be Jade, and then they kind of got ruined by it a little bit, which is a bit of a surprise. Didn't quite work out the same for Malaysia, but now we're going to see what the Mage can do. If Mage is against Token Druid, I feel like they have a reasonable matchup because they'll probably run things like Volk Potion.
Right. Volk Potion, huh? That's the technical term when you played it 100 or 200 times, is it? You start abbreviating it all down. Volcanic Potion, kids.
Volk Potion.
Don't talk like Raven. Says me.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to get into the game, and this looks like it appears to be like the original sort of standard list for the Discover Mage, even with the Gluttonous Ooze, which I believe a lot of people have dropped now because there just aren't that many weapon classes that Ooze does good in.
I like the Ooze because it's good in the mirror. With this deck being everywhere, you're trying to win that value. Or you're not. You're trying to hit people in the face.
Yeah.
But if you do go down the value route, just kill that Medivh weapon and off you go.
Yeah, no, it is understandable in that. In the mirror, it is a bit of a blowout as well. But
meanwhile, Belgium are thinking, why can't we draw like Malaysia just did?
You never know. They might draw straight into it now. Just the 2 living manas might be what they need to win this game. Well, a lot of the time, this list doesn't run Blizzard.
Right.
It runs Meteor, which living mana is just infinitely better against, and runs a Flame Strike, which is 2 turns away after living mana a lot.
So living mana into living mana is an option here, but Malaysia have picked up a pretty good early curve, and I assume they'll use this defensively, not aggressively. They'll just make sure they curve these minions out and just use them to tackle this early attack that they're expecting now they've seen the Raven.
Yeah, thanks. I wouldn't even mind, to a certain extent, a pass on this turn. It does look kind of wonky, but the idea is you pass and then Mana Worm coin Frostbolt.
Sure.
Because if you play the Mana Worm, then yeah, it could be ignored and you could just Frostbite next turn. It could be hero powered, which is fine. Might go for the other option here, which is just coin Archaeologist, which puts a minion on the board that does kill the Raven if it's not buffed and draws you a card anyway. So that's actually a pretty good play. You can just Frostbite next turn if you really need to, or go into Glyph for an on-demand answer. And on-demand answers against a deck this aggressive are pretty good. You've got 2 goes at Volcanic Potion, at Frost Nova, at Cone of Cold, for example.
Right.
Like, so many tools that are good. Even Ice Barriers, are absolutely fantastic.
Discover your own answer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what the deck does, to be honest.
Yeah, if you take enough stuff in your toolkit, eventually it's going to be okay. It's like, let's mend this washing machine with an orange, an apple, and a wrench.
Exactly.
And then you just pick the wrench.
Yeah, if
unless
you
you're
discover
me,
an orange
pick
and
the
apple,
orange.
just because you're hungry.
Yeah.
So that trade there probably gives Revenge a bit of a nod as to there is sort of bigger board development coming because, and not an aggressive burst all in. So we do see the Vicious Fledgling as a card in Chinoise's hand, and it's going to be just straight up answered by Frostbolt. So it's going to be a little bit rough here. I do like the Mana Worm this turn, though. Yeah, there we go. The Mana Worm is like, okay, you can leave it for a turn or so, but suddenly it'll get out of control, be hitting your opponent for 5, and then you switch to just racing the Druid if you keep the board clear enough.
And it should be able to kill most things that can come out this turn. I assume that Belgium won't innovate out the living mana. They will, of course, only get 3 mana crystals if they choose to do that. 3 mana dudes if they choose to do that.
Yeah, it only uses true mana, not temporary mana.
Right.
It uses like your actual true mana on the board.
But they're hoping this can't be answered. This was a sensible play, because it can't always be answered in this situation, but hey, there it goes.
Well, I think that the realistic thing is, like, you see the Mana Worm, great. If it's not answered, you suddenly are in a fantastic position.
Right.
Because you can attack with the Fledgling, you can potentially get Wind Fury to attack again, then you can get untargetable plus health. You
Yeah,
know.
the second that thing gets going,
Yeah, it's insane.
just
It's absolutely
all over a lot of the time. And these living manas with the Savage Draw obviously doesn't quite work that way. You have to save your Innovate to use the Savage Draw because you have no mana. That's kind of the point.
I think there's even a potential thought of probably doesn't need it because the War Leader challenges the Mana Worm reasonably well, but the Innovate living mana, presume it gets cleared, living mana again, and then presume those tokens are going to get the work done, because a lot of the time it's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, and obviously during those 2 turns, I've drawn 2 more cards. Something maybe you get a Finja as well. You've got to play for those outs, because that's how you get your few percent in these bad-looking matchups. And they're by no means out of this completely yet.
Yeah, I do like the double glyph here. The odds on you getting something to deal with this War Leader one way or the other is pretty high. Worst case, you don't. You pick other options to deal with the future game and just trade your Mana Worm in. Looks like Malaysia's going to go for the more straightforward, safer route of just Fireball in this War Leader, continue pressuring, which is fine, uses up the curve quite
And
nicely.
actually, what is the biggest health minion you can target, because Finja just come to hand?
Oh, completely, yeah, it's completely fine. Like, the only reason is in case you wanted to burn them, but you win by clearing the board every single turn. So
Now, this is interesting now, though, for Belgium, because there are 3 cards that can help them win this game, and they're all in their hand, along with the Savage Draw, which is like the closer. So there is definitely options here for Belgium to consider, and they need to work out exactly how quick. Will there be a blizzard? If they're not, they can just go living mana now. We can see that would actually provide a pretty big problem.
yeah, I actually think Finja's better now, because this mage deck can play without minions a lot of the time.
Right.
And while there's a minion on the board that you can kill next turn, then, I would actually seriously weigh up the Finja just to get the instant value.
On the other
Maybe
side,
living
this
mana.
does race Blizzard, it does race Meteor, those
True,
cards.
that's true,
So
yeah.
maybe getting these under, then Finja just goes like, hey, as long as I don't put anything next to you, you can't blow me up.
Now we just see Glyph into Potion, GG. Glyph into
Sure,
Glyph
yeah.
into double Potion, we're good for the next couple of turns. That's why I absolutely...
The Volk Potion.
Yeah, the Vault Potion. You can probably tell I do love this deck just because you have so many options, so many different styles to play. And what is it going to be? Glyph again. You want that potion, it's fine.
I thought the Pterodax had landed in the room next to me there for a minute, Raven. But it was just a Raven. Wow.
Easy as that.
That's
Easy
why
as
you
that.
like this deck so much.
Exactly,
I
it's
understand it
fine.
now.
It's easy.
And all the time, this Mana Worm's getting some good work done.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like the glyphs, the Mana Worm's so great.
Cost Flame Strike, sorry.
It's sick. It's insane. It's why the deck's so strong. The Mana Worm's so good when it's unchallenged.
Right.
Because it does this randomly. Like, now your opponent's like, I just took 7, plus the damage last turn from the Mana Worm, plus the damage from the turn before. I didn't deal with it, and now how does he deal with it? Face tank?
Dead in 2
Sick.
turns, yeah.
Yeah, because now Malaysia just kills him. This is the position you kind of get yourself in a lot of times. Obviously, versus aggro druid, you clear the board, right? That's priority number 1.
Yeah.
But the second that the refill from the druid isn't that great, you can just get him at that point because you do have so much burn. Obviously, Volcanic Potion and now a 5-mana Flame Strike kind of seal the deal. Finja comes out, Flame Strike, don't care. Like,
Yeah, and the problems here for Belgium are just multiplying and multiplying. They've got to deal with this, and again, they've got to find a way to actually win. Maybe it's just Finja time and just see if it lives. It doesn't, because Flame Strike loses you the game.
nothing that he plays can live at this point. You die to Flame Strike, and it's one of the powerful effects of this deck versus this versus the aggro druid is you've got so many chances. You might run Volcanic Potion anyway. You have 2 couriers that could potentially get you some AoE. You have the 2 glyphs.
Right.
You run a Flame Strike in the deck most of the time anyway if you go late game. So
And it is Discover. You've got a decent chance. It's not like it's Babbling Book. A lot of them don't play that.
Yeah.
Where it's just a random card. Yeah, Discover is usually a strong card. That's why the effect is so liked by most players. it allows you to influence the game positively without being overly random a lot of the time.
Yeah, and there are rip living mana dudes as the Flame Strike is going to be used to clear up here. There's pretty much no reason not to. You can't play your Violence Portals anyway. Your Violence Portals are probably going to win you the game over the next couple of turns regardless. And holding on in case Finja gets played seems ridiculous. You know, we can see with you know, our ultimate vision that, you know, if Finja comes down next turn, it now doesn't die because Flame Strike's used.
Yeah,
But
the roll
your
of the eyes
opponent's dead
there
in
for
2 turns
Chinoy
anyway.
says it all. It's like, okay, you're going to get the potion and the flame strike, so be it. But like you're saying, that's a reasonable chance of happening.
Yeah, more often than you'd believe, actually, because you have so many goes at it. Like, even saw then, if you get glyph into glyph, well, there's another roll of the dice to try and get those correct discover options you want.
Picking up another fledgling gives them another option, but it's just so bad. We can see this hand now for Malaysia is going to be 2-turn burn is one of the options now. And that's the whole point. You set up a situation where your opponent can't defend themselves, and your burner stops burning the minions. Now it's just like, oh,
Well,
burn can go face.
yeah, there's 2 routes here. Like, you know, if the fledgling goes down, you could just Violence Portal it, be super safe. You could Violence Portal face, make him deal with the minion that gets summoned, and because no matter what for next 2 turns, you still have Ice Block in hand.
Yeah.
So you can almost guarantee the time it takes to ping your opponent down, you know, more than anything else. So it's going to be a Finja and a Golaka Crawler, mortal enemies of the pirates.
Mortal enemies.
Yeah, one's a ninja and one's a crab that kills pirates.
Yeah, fair enough.
Exactly,
I can't even
like-
argue with that. I want
yeah.
to argue with it, but okay, who can argue
Especially
the
the
crab
one-
that kills pirates?
Exactly, a crab that kills pirates and a ninja, which we all know are the mortal enemies of pirates. Pirates versus ninjas. It's a
That's
thing.
your new game you're going to make.
No, that is a huge thing. Google it. Google it.
I'm not allowed.
Okay, so 5-6 onto the board now, going to be very, very awkward to deal with. Savage Roar is going to help, but is it going to be enough? We can see that Violence Portal is available again for next turn to face, but it won't be enough as it's going to be 1 health out of range. Let's see what Murlocs get drawn. I imagine it's just the War Leader, Blue Girl combos. isn't
Yeah,
it?
because one of each has been played, I think.
Yep.
Or was that last game? That may have been last game, actually. But yeah, just setting up a board now, and in a situation where, from their point of view, they've given themselves, they've used every card apart from this one Innovate. They've given themselves a maximum chance to get lucky at this point with maybe a crazy fledgling, but that...
That's not going to be enough yet. It's going to be a Ice Block. What you can do to guarantee this is just Ice Block ping.
Yep.
And then next turn can be Violence ping or Violence Frostbolt.
Right.
So, which, unless there's Earthen Scales in the deck, Feral Rage randomly, you know, the thing, the fringe outs, in case they've teched it that way, is pretty much guaranteed. The Ice Block just stops any sort of truly crazy shenanigans happening. You can just Frostbolt this turn to stop a face attack as well.
just for
Like,
efficiency.
yeah, you just guarantee it now. Ice Block into Frostbolt, and this deck again, similar-ish to Freeze Mage, where you just put them in checkmate over X turns because you know there's no real outs.
Yeah, just trying to see from the other side how on earth Belgium could even think they can get out of this now. They know Malaysia haven't. I mean, they used a Fireball early as removal, which is a sign of one of 2 things: either they were desperate, or they had low.
Yeah, or they have it to spare,
And they've
right?
not seemed to look desperate at any point, so Chinoys will know that the other outcome is they're probably fine for damage here.
Yeah, and this is probably a huge signal
Yeah.
to Belgium that this is checkmate, because the Frostbolt would have just gone to 2 of the other 3, one of the other minions on the board, either the War Leader or the Fledgling, to stop any true craziness happening, but it's going to be guaranteed. We see the Enchanted Raven, not going to be enough. There's the cool interaction with the hit into Wind Fury, so you can hit again and discover again. Unfortunately, Wind Fury doesn't stack. That would be hilarious.
That would
just a
actually be
3-mana
really
card
funny.
that can OTK because it just keeps getting Wind Fury.
Hit you 10 times with my super Wind Fury. That was a thing, right? One of the cards made double Wind Fury once.
There was the Voltron has
Yes!
quad ring Wind Fury, isn't it? I think it's quad ring. It can attack 4 times.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
But yeah, it's going to be a Violence Paul to finish the game, and this Discover Mage getting the work done. Burglary Bully going to show his face just for the ending there, but Malaysia taking the victory over Belgium. There's the power stances from the players there. Got to be happy as Revenge takes that one. And that's going to be it for Malaysia. They go 2-0 up in their group. Belgium at 0-2 in their group now.
Right.
So as well as putting them in a strong position in the lead, they're also pushing their opponents further down to the bottom of the table and cementing their position at the top now.
Yeah, these groups really starting to take shape this week, I think. Over the first few weeks, it's been like, oh, they want to know they're 0-1. That's just early posturing. But suddenly 2-0, that's almost a statement now. One more win and they're probably through to the next phase. Again, tiebreaks and stuff pending.
Yeah,
but
very likely is the safest way to go. But, you know, again, we see another aggro druid get picked up. We can see that the shape of the series overall. Arne almost did it. He got his 2 wins and almost was MVP there for Belgium, but Revenge closed out with the mage. And we see this, you know, the aggro druid and how it can fluctuate based on what it comes up against. Because I genuinely believe like that mage deck is actually pretty reasonable versus the druid because you have access to so many clears, you have ice barriers, you have blocks, and the druid actually doesn't have much defense against some burn. But it looks like we have Lala Song on the line for an interview, so we can check it out. Hey Lala Song, can you hear me?
爱德里讲冲哥俺去太烂啊，不然就删那个。
Well, congratulations on the win. With very excited with Arne winning the 2 games earlier. Were you a little bit worried that you were going to lose the series?
妈的，我直接过黑了我嘛。OK， damn god, freaking god.
No. You can hear me, Lala Song, right? No? Okay. Looks like we're going to cut this as Lala Song is not going to reply to us. He's just too excited, actually, just talking with his teammates. So that was good to see how excited they were to win that match, and I can't blame them.
yeah, again, they're representing, I think a lot of the APAC regions aren't just representing their own country, they're representing the region.
Yep.
And yet again, as last week where they went 2-2 on the first day, they're 1-1 today, holding their own with Europe. I think a lot of them, like I say, they want to represent their individual countries.
Yep.
But APAC have got a point to prove because people on the HCT cast seem to put them down a bit from time to time.
Don't know what you're talking about. But I think we do need a ticker at some point today to keep the score between
I'm
Europe
sure I
and
will
Asia
ticker
Pacific.
it for you up
Yeah.
until the point where APAC go behind.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. I think we can check out some of the highlights from this series. It seems so long ago now as this series was, I think, a bit of a lengthy one, but the crab getting cleared up by Quality was a bit of a blow to Lala Song there. There were options for him to guarantee that crab go back in his hand and start to cycle it to kill or chain kill these Murlocs, but we could see that it was still not enough. No matter how hard Belgium tried, they could not keep hold of this game as, you know, Malaysia and Lala Song just got the quest off extremely easily, I think. It wasn't super fast, but it was relatively easy. They weren't under too much pressure.
The tide with that crab, even though it got killed.
Yeah, they're on 24 health on turn 7 here. Like, you were feeling good about life. And then, obviously, the Stone Tusk Boar off the top. The charge minion that was needed for lethal that turn changed everything up here and got Malaysia to a quick 1-0 lead.
Yeah, and then we saw them go to this 2-0 lead. At this point, it looked obviously really good for them. Finding a way to win with this scavenging hyena in the aggressive-looking hunter deck with a lot of 1-drops, which you wouldn't favour normally, but they picked their poison and said, we're going to get it done with our hyena. Hyena got it done.
Yep. So, and we had the strange pick from Malaysia with the Handlock. Not the strongest deck in the world. We were surprised Warlock was a choice at all. Picked over the Paladin that was an option, and it just wasn't enough as the Dragon Priest from Arne, as he started to mount a comeback for Belgium, was just too hot to handle here. Just too much board pressure, and just too much pressure in general. As you know, as we mentioned during the game, Handlock cannot really heal that much anymore, which is why we see decks like Sifka's Blood Doom deck actually just run things like Voodoo Doctor and just any card that could heal.
All that stuff.
Any card that could heal, he could use.
Into this game here, the early devolve there, turning the minions into wisps, realizing they could hang on against almost everything there, and made Arne. They kept the 2-3 on the board. They didn't need to reduce the cost of stuff, and they played this really well, I felt, this game.
Yeah, this is really nice. The help of the devolve turn 2 really, you know, opened up the game. The buffs went on the minions, but as we mentioned against Druid, the minions are still just one mana, so they're going to go down to 0 manas, which are 1/1s anyway. And it easily cleaned up with the 2 lightning storms. Really, Belgium were never under that much pressure.
And then I'll let you talk about this, because I know how much you love these Discoverer.
Guys, play this deck. Basically, it's awesome. The mage deck gave him multiple options here with the Primordial Glyph to try and get some kind of clear. bear in mind, the Frost Nova was an option that would have stalled. It wouldn't have cleared, but it would have stalled and still put on a lot of pressure, led into that Flame Strike as well. So the combination of double Glyph, getting Volt Potion and the Flame Strike, we see the go down now, really close out the game. Chinoiz just can't believe it.
He felt with that double Living Mana, they must have a fair shout at that game, but
yeah,
neither of them survived.
Living Mana is one of the cards that can do kind of crazy things. It just creates too many big minions to deal with a lot of the time. So it's kind of nuts. I think we can actually check out the group and see how exactly it looks after that match. As we said, this does get a 2-0 lead for Malaysia in groups so far. We can see them at match Canada. Not a slightly worse game score. They've lost some games throughout that. We saw them lose 2 in that one, even though it was nearly a 3-0, so that would have been closer. But yeah, still rocking at the top with Canada after 2 series, whereas Belgium 0-2 down at a 2-6 game score. Not looking too hot for those.
Yeah, they're going to have to do a lot of fighting to get out of this group, but they will have Maverick back in the future as well, who is another very powerful European player. So not all over for Belgium yet, but definitely work to do.
Yeah, also interesting, in the middle of that group is Denmark and France as well. So 2 strong powerhouse Hearthstone countries still need to play and try and make their mark on the group. But we are going to be getting ready for the next series very, very soon. So don't go anywhere, guys. It's the Hearthstone Global Games.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.